National Geographic Kids. Skyscrapers. A history of height. Throughout time, people have been fascinated with tall buildings. Ancient Egyptians built pyramids for their pharaohs. Later on, people built tall towers and giant cathedrals out of mortar and stone. The largest pyramid in Giza, Egypt, was 481 feet tall when it was built. Ulm Minster, 530 feet, in Ulm, Germany, is the tallest church in the world. But in the 1880s, two new ideas changed everything. One was using an iron and steel skeleton to support a building. The other was the invention of a safe passenger elevator. Now buildings could be bigger, taller, and stronger. The skyscraper was born. Building words. Skeleton, the supporting frame of something, like a building. Skyscraper, a very tall building. Empire State Building, 1,250 feet, in New York City. Famous skyscrapers. People first used the word skyscraper to describe a building in 1885. That's what they called the Home Insurance Building in Chicago, Illinois, USA. It was 10 stories, 138 feet, tall and had an iron and steel skeleton. Since then, people's ideas about skyscrapers have changed. Many skyscrapers are still built out of steel. But whether or not a building is called a skyscraper depends on how it compares to other buildings in the area. If a building stands out above other buildings, even if it is quite short, people could consider it to be a skyscraper. Building word. Story, a floor of a skyscraper. The world's smallest skyscraper? In 1919, a man named J. D. McMahon showed people plans for a high-rise building in Wichita Falls, Texas, USA. He collected lots of money. But he didn't tell people that the plans showed the building measured in inches instead of feet. By the time people found out, it was too late. Their skyscraper was just 4 stories tall. Over time, there have been many famous skyscrapers. Some are famous because of their height. In 2017, the world's tallest skyscraper is the Burj Khalifa, in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It is 2,717 feet tall and has 163 floors. Other skyscrapers are famous because of their design. The Shanghai World Financial Center, 1,614 feet, in China has a 4-sided hole cut out of its top. Some people think the building looks like a giant bottle opener. And the Burj Al Arab, 1,053 feet, in Dubai is shaped like a giant boat sail. Some skyscrapers are famous because they create a skyline that makes the city easy to recognize. Hong Kong is a great example. There are more skyscrapers here than anywhere else in the world. Other cities with famous skylines include New York City, Shanghai, China, Dubai, UAE, and Sydney, Australia. Building word. Skyline, the outline of objects, such as buildings, against the background of the sky. Weird but true. Alain Robert is known as the French Spider-Man. He's climbed more than 100 skyscrapers, most using just his bare hands and chalk to keep his hands from slipping. Why build skyscrapers? When you see a giant skyscraper, one question you may ask is, why would people build something that tall? The answer most likely has to do with money, space, and technology. That's why people first started building skyscrapers. This drawing shows what Lower Manhattan looked like before skyscrapers and the fire of 1835. New York's Great Fire of 1835 lasted for 2 days. Most of the destroyed buildings were businesses. In the early 1800s, New York City became the finance center of the United States. But in 1835, a giant fire destroyed nearly 700 buildings in a section of the city called Manhattan. Everything had to be rebuilt. Building words. Technology, the use of scientific tools and methods for a practical reason. Finance, the business of managing money for a person, company, or government. But land was expensive. And more people kept moving to the city. There wasn't much space on the ground. So, they started to build upward. The first safe passenger elevator. People started using powered elevators in the 1830s. But these elevators weren't safe. If the cable broke, the elevator would fall to the ground. In 1853, Elisha Graves Otis invented a rope brake safety device. In 1857, the 5-story E.V. Hall-out building, 79 feet, in New York became the first building to use Otis's passenger safety elevator. 13 years later, New York's 7-story Equitable Life Building, 142 feet, became the first office building to have an elevator like this. As they rebuilt, the people of New York were limited by technology. Bricks and mortar couldn't support the height and weight of very tall buildings. And who wanted to climb that many stairs, anyway? For these reasons, the tallest new building in New York in the 1850s was just 5 stories high. While all this was going on in New York, the city of Chicago, Illinois, was also growing quickly. From 1830 to 1870, it grew from 50 people to nearly 300,000. Many people came for jobs. Because of Chicago's location in the middle of the United States, the city was a railroad center for the country. Much trade and business passed through the city. But in 1871, fire tore through Chicago. More than 18,000 buildings were burned. Making steel. In 1856, English inventor Henry Bessemer discovered a new way to make steel. Before this, it was a slow, costly process. Bessemer invented a machine that made steel quickly. It could make big sheets of steel. And it was inexpensive.